Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Subspace Weekly Developer Sync. Today, we're going to go around and get updates from everybody on what we've been working on, what we're going to work on this week. Starting with the core protocol layer. Nazar, do you want to kick us off, please?
Of course. Last week, the biggest milestone was launching Gemini 2A stress test network. That was quite successful. We had some minor issues. We've issued the runtime upgrade on chain to fix some of those, and then we have released Snapshot recently to decrease memory usage on the farmer side. Otherwise, it looks pretty good, and we didn't have any big developments otherwise during last week, on the code side at least.
All right, thanks, Nazar. Any questions from the group? Shamil, you want to go next?
Sure. Last week, I finished the second revision of the distributed storage network v1 documentation and started designing DSN v2. This week, I will continue with it. That's it.
Okay. You had wanted to have a meeting, I think, on Wednesday, Shamil. We're
Yep.
not going to be able to do it today, so I think we're going to have to schedule that for
I get
Wednesday.
it by the comments on that page.
Yeah. All right, great. Okay. Let's see. Yvonne, you're up next.
Yeah, sure. So last week, I was also helping with the launch of Gemini 2A. The thing is that we had high memory usage as we switched to ParityDB. We had some discussion with the parity folks. So basically, we fixed the memory usage related to the like commitments patching, that kind of things. There were like some minor pull requests to ParityDB, like debug implementation to all the structures. Some minor things. I also took a look and benchmarked like memory usage on the farmer. Apart from that, I looked into the telemetry and how on the ways and how I can support like up to 100K nodes on it. Did a document related to that. Apart from that, I took a look into the CLI wrapper and the API related to that. So let's comment some on that. So looking forward to the meeting about that, Jeremiah, and therefore if it would be great if we could schedule it this week. We'll continue looking into that, I guess, this week. Yep, that's all on my end.
Great, thanks, Yvonne. Sounds like you're doing a lot of different things. Arthur, go ahead. Sorry, you're going to say something. Oh, okay. Can we go ahead and get that time set up for the next CLI discussion soon? Okay. All right. Any questions for Yvonne? All right. Moving on to the execution layer and domains. I have not been working on that this much last week. Just had a few conversations with Li Cheng and Ved. We're trying to move into a more regular meeting cycle, discussion cycle for that. Hoping to make a lot more progress on that this week. It's been stalled by some other things. Let's see, Li Cheng, do you want to go next?
Yeah. So last week, I looked into a recent executor test failure in CI and found that it's essentially the same problem we have encountered before. I proposed a solution, but Nazar is not a fan of this. We'll keep that issue open until someone can raise a new idea. On the domains side, I did another iteration on the executor registry in namespace execution spec and pilot executor registry after the last integration sync. Apart from that, I looked into the fork handling and wrote a document on that. I also collected some ideas on the domain's implementation plan. The goal for this week, I think, is to try to set down an initial version of the implementation plan, or at least find something we can work on. Yeah, that's my advice.
Thank you, Liu Cheng. Yeah, and I apologize I wasn't able to meet up last night. So let's plan to meet this evening for me, or when is that, tomorrow morning for you at the, is that like 8 p.m. 03 UTC?
Anyone else?
Yeah, right, like we did last week, the week before. I'll send out an invite right after this.
Okay, great.
All right. Okay, any questions for Liu Cheng? Okay, Ved, you're up next.
Hey everyone. Last week on the execution side, not a lot has progressed during the weekdays. Ended up focusing more on the infrastructure and taking a break. Started working on the namespace. Started working on the actual spec for messaging. We did initial palette messenger that based on our discussion with Jeremiah and Liu Cheng, but we do not have any formal specification for that yet. So I started working on that over the weekend. I should have that up in a day or two. And I do have a meeting with Jeremiah regarding this on the registry. So any feedback out of that, and then maybe supporting Nazar. I'm not sure if there is much on the infrastructure side, but if there is any supporting Nazar on this this week.
All right, thanks for helping us get all the infrastructure set up last week, Ved. And yeah, this week we're going to shift back into messaging and finishing the specification for that, but definitely be on standby for any changes we need to do on the infrastructure side.
Yep.
All right. Okay, Arthur, you're up next.
Hey, Trail of Bits audit started last week, or kicked off last week. So we officially begin today. So that will be ongoing. Subscan also came back with us. They now have a testing environment for us to play around with, so definitely check that out. Additionally, Subspace Desktop has been upgraded to 2A for the testing environment. And yeah, I think those are the high-level updates. Also, Subwallet is also updated to work with our stress tests. And that's it.
Yeah, and Subwallet also had they released a demo, or like a showcase of a single chain mode that they put into our forum as well. So we're looking for some feedback from our users on that. Okay, let's see, who's next? Serge.
Yeah, my primary focus was telemetry UI. I was working on adding space pledged to the UI. However, this required updating the original repository because the code base is a little bit old, as mentioned before, like some dependencies are from 2018. And because for space pledged, we need to query RPC. So we need Polka.js, and like the recent version is not compatible with that setup for Webpack and TypeScript. So yeah, submitted PR to the original repository, and I still need one more approval to merge it, and after that I can finalize the original issue, which is adding space pledged. Yeah, and after that I'm free for next task. That's all.
The PR was to parity or just internal?
To parity.
Okay. Do we need parity's approval? I thought we were already working on Fogo fork.
Yeah, we need, because I submitted PR to the upstream, to the parity repository, so we can pull updated changes.
Okay.
You know, so there won't be much difference between our fork and the original repository.
Okay, this is for the telemetry repository?
Yes.
Okay. All right. If that's going to be a blocker, like we've got to get this deployed this week. So if it's going to be more than like 24 hours for them to merge that, we're just going to have to fork it and go with it until the PR is approved.
No, I already have 2 approvals. I just need 1 more. So I think they're pretty responsive.
Okay. Okay. Arthur, did you get a chance to talk to Serge about the unique reward address count as well on telemetry?
No, not yet. I can check in with them after this.
Okay, awesome. Okay, that's great, Serge. We're excited to see that on telemetry. We're going to have that on Subscan as well, but it'll be good to have it in multiple places, especially since our code is open source and can be audited as well. All right. Any questions for Serge? Oscar, you're up next.
Sure. I can start with elaborating a bit more on Gemini 2A for the desktop. So we were previously planning to have a dedicated test setting or testnet for the desktop for the upcoming audit. But then after discussing it with Nazar, we decided that Gemini 2A itself should be a pretty good candidate for this audit and the testnet. So we merged all the branches to the main, and yeah, we can say safely that we stopped developing at this point, waiting for the audit. Aside from these changes, I'm still reading the materials on Notion, reading the stuff that Daria adds. I also have some questions about that, but we can discuss them later. I'm also reading the CLI wrapper we are going to have, and if there are things that I can do in prior to this development, like, I don't know, maybe it's reading some documents or something else, I can do that, or some example projects maybe. Yeah, other than that, as Nazar mentioned, I tested my own setup for discovering the reason of why I cannot sing fully when I started from fresh. Found out that it was my network because it worked in other networks I tried. Yeah, that's all.
All right, thanks, Foskin. Yeah, we'll be having a discussion about the CLI soon to get you working on that. Tomorrow would be a great day for that, Arthur, if we can find a time that works for everybody. Okay. Moving on to R&D, just from my side, mainly just reviewing. Haven't really done any new work there. We are having a discussion with David Say this afternoon to go through the security analysis of the new consensus protocol and hopefully get a write-up out of that soon as well. Let's see. Daria, you want to give us your update, please?
Well, the last things that I have spent most of my time on is to pinpoint in exactly what sort of the commitment scheme and erasure coding we are going to use. And I have one scheme working that I have shared in the research channel, which should be okay to begin with, but there's certainly a lot of room for improvement later. And I have also tried to prove, some of the articles that Vitalik wrote about that stuff, though I'm still having a little trouble with that. Other than pinning down the polynomial scheme, polynomial commitment scheme, the consensus, I believe I am done with the spec. But we will review it this week and then can actually say that.
Wonderful. Okay. I'm going to be reviewing that today, Daria, and I think we have a discussion on Wednesday. Yeah. In the meantime, we can start working on formalizing the network DSN spec that Shamil put together for V1 as a first run, and then we can start working on upgrading that to the V2 spec as well once we have that defined. But the V1 spec should be at a point where you can start to review it and formalize it.
Okay, I will look at it.
right. Justin, you want to go next?
Yeah. So on my end, last week we just did some updates to the documentation to reflect the new changes for the stress test that the development team launched. Started onboarding some of our community moderators as well to help us bring some support to those various global channels we have that we may not be able to support due to some of language barriers and things along those lines. Also working with the community team to get some more resources together prior to the launch of our next phase. Just some general FAQs that may be relevant to kind of the new format that we have and some things along those lines. I'm just making sure that the community is all taken care of as far as we roll into this next phase. But beyond that, my biggest priority has really just been support and helping people out with questions and everything in the community.
Great. Thank you, Justin. That's very important as we move into the next phase. All right. I think that's it. Anything else that we need to cover before we close out? All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Keep up the great work, and we will see you all again next week.